government figures suggest that transport emissions count for a third of the UK's air pollution, with dangerously poor air quality affecting more than 3 million school children across England.
Well, this week it was the focus of a Coronation Street storyline. Car fumes were blamed when Maria Connor's son Liam collapsed while playing football.
Do you know, there was a time when a child had space to kick a ball on this street.
What's happened?
I don't know. We were playing football. You started coughing, and then he said he couldn't breathe.
He also said that traffic fumes could have been a trigger because he was playing football in the street. Something definitely needs to be done about the traffic around here. When I was at the hospital, the doctor told me that air pollution can have a massive effect on people with asthma.
So, is it time we banned cars from the school run? We're joined now by True Powell, a businessman and a father of 3 who drives his children to school before going to work, and also broadcaster and mother of 4, Liz Fraser, who cycles to school with her children in all weathers. Good morning to both of you. So, Liz, let's start with you then, because, you know, for a lot of parents, there are different situations about how they get their children to school, but you're very keen on the fact that actually it shouldn't be by car.
Well, I'm very keen on a far greater awareness of making every effort we can not to go by car. Look, I am very lucky. I know I'm very lucky that all of my 4 children, so 3 have gone all the way through primary school, secondary school and out, and 1 is starting primary school next year. All of them have gone to the local primary school and the local secondary school for most of their school life, or at least within 3 miles of where I live. So I understand that I'm lucky that I can walk. We've always walked or cycled, and I don't think I've taken any of my children to school or picked them up from school in a car, ever. So I'm certainly not going to sit here as someone saying, you mustn't take car, you mustn't drive in, you mustn't get in your car, because there are a lot of people who live a few miles outside of town and they need to come in. They've maybe got 2 children going to 2 different schools, and then they're going on to work from there. But in the main, anytime I possibly can, and yes, as you say, I'll do it in snow, rain, boiling hot sun, it doesn't matter what the weather is, we dress for the weather and we cycle to school. I do 15 kilometres a day, just doing the nursery drop-off and pick-ups, there and back, there and back. And I do it with her. If it rains, I just put very attractive plastic trousers on and off I go. But, that way I'm not polluting the environment. I'm saving money. I'm saving on the traffic and danger the danger of cars on the roads. And anytime I can, and I think anyone who really can, really should.
And would you be able to do it? And I don't know if this is the case, that if you, after the school run, had to go to work?
Okay, so this is where we all start to have to compromise and see, give and take and make changes where we can. If I had to then drive on to work, that would be very difficult. So then you start to think, okay, well, I've got to solve this problem another way. Can I do a car share with anyone? Or is there some way that I can go earlier, negotiate with my boss? Maybe. I know this doesn't apply for everybody, but you never know till you ask. So I could do the school run, come home, get in my car, let's say, and go. I went to a school about 6 miles outside Oxford, where I live, and there was a school bus. I think there were about 10 school buses that picked kids up from all over and took them out to this school. I don't see as many school buses now. I don't know if that's changed or if it's just what I'm seeing. And certainly there was no place where you could drive the cars right to the school gate. You had to leave the cars in like a bus bay or a car park area. So my suggestion is, rather than saying to ban cars, which is really unhelpful for a lot of people who are not as lucky as a lot of us are who can get there in other ways, to say maybe we should ban cars within a certain area. And unless you have reason, and you could prove that you have reason, that you're physically unable for your child to walk half a mile, almost anybody could then come within half a mile of the school. That could be sort of like lollipop ladies, but you know what I mean, some sort of people who could then sort of, walk bus the kids in groups together. There must be ways that we can get around this, because the asthma situation is very serious, and air pollution generally, and environmental things. All we have to do is think laterally, think outside the box, and find solutions to this. Humans are naturally quite lazy, sadly.
Well, if you think a bit differently. Okay, well, True, you drive your children at the moment. What about those suggestions from Liz? Car sharing, go a bit earlier, get the bus, or would you be up for this sort of exclusion zone around the immediate area of the school?
I think, good morning, by the way, and I think Liz absolutely makes some great points, and I fully understand and appreciate that we must do better for the environment. But for some parents and for some children, their schools are not in the catchment area, which means they have to drive to school, particularly if you've got more than one child going to different schools. And for me, I have to drive my kids to school, because once I drop my kids off at school, then I go on to work. Some of the suggestions that Liz raised in terms of parking in a designated area and walking over, in theory, that sounds good. But to me, I feel like that's just moving the problem to another area from outside the school gate. But those people and those children who are driving to that designated area are still going to be affected by the pollution.
Although,
so there has to be some other solutions in how we approach this. And you know, what next? Are we going to ban cars at parks? Are we going to ban cars at shopping on a Saturday when we go with our children? I think for me, there's got to be better solutions, and driving to schools and dropping the kids off at the school gate is a necessity for me.
Interesting, because you've got 3 children who are all school-age children, haven't you? As opposed to Liz, you've got an 8-year-old, I think a 10-year-old and a 14-year-old. But is it, you know, you talk about sort of, and that is a common argument, I think, to say that, well, if we have an exclusion zone around schools, say, of 500 metres or whatever, you know, then you're just moving the problem away. But that is the point, isn't it? That children are sort of sitting ducks for pollution inside a school, and people keep their engines revving. There's hundreds of parents arriving, and it happens twice a day. And so, in a way, moving the problem away is a solution, isn't it? It would, I mean, in terms of we lead busy lives, don't we? In the morning, for you to have 3 children who have to walk that 500-metre walk into school, perhaps with you or with a teacher, and then you walk back, could you feasibly add that time into your morning if that's what a solution looked like?
No, if I'm being honest, because I was fortunate or unfortunate enough to have my school next to the house for the first 5 years, and all my children walked to school. It's only this year that I realised that the school that they were going to wasn't appropriate for their needs, and I had to move them into a further school. And now my journey is a 15-mile one-way trip to the school that they go to. So to walk would take me at least an hour and a half to get there, which is totally unpractical for me. You know, I drop the kids off and then I go straight into the city.
So you wouldn't be very popular with your children, would you, I suppose? Come on, kids.
On a high.
It's 6:30. We've got to be in for 9. So let's get on the way.
You know, and it would just completely ruin the day. We would be getting up at 4 a.m. in the morning. We would be leaving the house at 7 a.m. just to get to school on time. They'd be flustered and tired. It would just be a lot. So I understand that we need some solutions, but for some people... So what is
the solution? What can you do then? It's quite interesting, because it's a problem that we all face, really. And I suppose the point of it being a storyline on Coronation Street is that it's reflecting a very real issue. You know, 3 million children, and a lot of them are in London, actually, do sit in what is described by the World Health Organization in areas that exceed pollution limits. We don't want our children to sit in schools breathing in polluted air, do we? If there is a way, even if it's an inconvenience to us as parents, if there is a way to avoid it. So, True, what solution would you have for your life?
I think, first of all, there needs to be an awareness campaign. And for those people who can walk it to school, and by that I mean if they're in the catchment area and it's a 10-minute walk, I do condemn those people who drive to school if they can walk to school and it's not too far. So then that would reduce cars at the school gate. Secondly, I think we just need to be aware of what's happening to our children. My young child has asthma. He's 8 years old, so I fully understand and appreciate that we need to reduce the air pollution. But I think those who can walk should walk, and those who have no choice but to drive should be able to drive. And I think there needs to be some more kind of work around that.
It's interesting who would police. I wonder whether, Liz, you think that, you know, there would be a situation where schools know where all the parents live, and then you say there are permits for those people who can come.
We've noticed you're driving into school.
Yeah,
and you live...
I mean, it's a big pressure on schools.
that's getting into really sort of quite sort of muddy waters there, you know. And I mean, look, already this morning, as I've been talking to you, I've had the tweets coming in, and there's plenty of people already saying, oh, you're such a goody two-shoes, aren't you, Liz? And oh, you don't live in the real world, blah, blah. And I think what was just said there is exactly what I think we need to be saying, which is that for those who have to drive, that availability still has to be there. I'm so anti-banning. I'm really not a banning person at all. But as rightly said by other guests, you know, we need to it needs to be awareness, far greater awareness, and incentivizing as well. How can we incentivize people to cycle more? Can you get in touch with local bicycle shops, or I don't know what, to have some sort of reduction for the cost of a bike? But the fact of the matter is there are people on that school run driving who don't need to be. We're not talking about the people who do need to be. If you do need to drive, obviously you need to drive, but there are many who don't. And it's about the well-being of our children. So, I mean, why don't we all just actually find some solutions to days when we don't have to drive?
Yep, that's a good point. Liz and True, thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Good luck on your 4-hour walk, True, come September the 4th or whatever it is.
Might want to stock up on
and our
some weather
sympathies
gear.
are with your children at this present time.
I'll do a pack lunch.
Better set off now.